I talked about how Bhagavatam is unique in the sense it is not a function of head, it is not a function of understanding, or it's not a function of rote and stuff like that. It is more a function of the heart, where you relish it, you enjoy it, and that's the reason why what Guruji had already always told us, not to put targets, not to make it another chore, not to make it another have to do stuff. Rather, let's have something in our life where we just love to do, and there are no targets, there are no pressures, and we are trying to practice a sterling principle of loving and enjoying the journey, which I think is a lot amiss in our other endeavors, whether it's academic or social or professional or even between family members and stuff like that. By now, I'm sure you would have seen a very uh, two different schools of thoughts which influence our way of thinking. There is this pure Western thought where it tries to impress upon a fact that you are the master of your own destiny, and anything you want you can get, and purpose is what you define. Nobody else should define the purpose for you. There is nothing called universal stuff, etc. Right? And then there is this very traditional classical way of thinking where we believe in design, we believe in order, we believe in intelligence which runs this universe. And all these three things, which whether it is intelligence or design or divinity, etc., is obviously not something seen, or obviously it is not something which can be approximated by our intellect. It cannot be trapped in our intellect. And that is the reason, that is the purpose of Bhagavatam and Vedas, etc., to break the glass ceiling of our limited intellect, to expand it further into what is called as an experience. And I use the word experience, obviously, we tend to attach it to various experiences, like I tasted something, it was a great experience. I went to Hawaii, it was a great experience. I'm talking about something more. I want us to associate the word experience with, can I use an Oprah word for it? It's called an aha experience, a aha moment, where something which is self-evident suddenly shines in our heart. You get what I'm saying? You call it a eureka moment or something like that. And when the intellect is guided by, say, Bhagavatam or Upanishads, etc., we are not fed with more information. In fact, we stumble into, this is the word I wanted to use, called experience, where something which is so self-evident, which I was staring at all the time, yet I couldn't figure it out, falls into place. And I think generally people call it an aha moment, called epiphany. And one of the top educators by the name Dr. Ken Robinson, he is not doctor, he is actually Sir Ken Robinson. He moved from UK to US, and he has some very brilliant ideas about the education system and all that. I have heard some of his TED Talks, and he uses the same word, epiphany, which means that, now I get it, you see. And it's not something, it's not a new information which is added. It is a new, even perspective looks distant. And that's why I thought the word experience would make it more, closer to the heart, right? So that's what Bhagavatam is supposed to lead us to. Now let me give you an epiphany. Sadhyo kriti avarudhyate atra kritibihi susrushubihi takshanat means, as we actually go through Bhagavatam and try to imbibe it with absolute openness, and since we come from Sanatana Dharma, I would not compromise on reverence. You see, you can't be irreverential towards something and hope you have to learn something from it or hope to be blessed by it, etc. So reverence and openness, and of course, the combination of these two is what is called as devotion, right? So when we approach Bhagavatam like that, Bhagavatam gives us the second sloka. I'm sure all of you recite it almost daily because it's a dhyana sloka. It's a sloka used for meditation for Bhagavatam. The second sloka of the first chapter, which is the dhyana sloka, which says Sadhyo Gridhya Varudhyate Atra Kritibihi Susrushubihi Takshanat. That obvious, that epiphany, that divine experience just flashes in our heart immediately, spontaneously. You see, that's the beauty of Bhagavad. It is not something which we go, 10%, 20%, 30%, etc. Bhagavatam can actually be an experience where we grow from one sort of an experience of a joy, spontaneity, and contentment to the next. You see, that's the beauty of this Bhagavatam. And so let me go back to where we started. Generally, in the West, they try to sound very empowering. But then I realized that there is a balancing force in the West itself. I'm so thankful for that. That, generally in America, we have been taught, right? And it's like a cliche in America that sky is the limit. Whatever you want, you can achieve. And the corollary to that is, if you have not achieved it, it is your fault. You see what I'm saying? And which means they have just opened up achievements and they made it appear as if the only factor for achievement is your efforts, you see. And it means that if I've not achieved, then I have not put my efforts. And then we find many cases where the efforts were not lacking, the intention was not lacking, yet achievement was not happening. And those people, because they believe blindly this model of just effort leads to result, they become bitter, either with themselves or with society or with family, I don't know, with the system, right? And a lot of, nasty things happen. But here in Bhagavatam, in Mahabharatam, it says achievement, whether it is professional or whether it is personal, or in our passion, or even in spirituality, is a combination of two things. It's not just efforts. Of course, efforts are the centerpiece. There is a second element which is apart from efforts, which influence the results. Efforts are seen, efforts are measured, and the second element is unseen. And the second element cannot be easily metered or measured. And so they very beautifully named it uh, as Adhrishtam, you see, that which cannot be seen, that which cannot be understood, yet it exists. You see, it is there, it's a factor, and it's called Adhrishtam. And so your prayatna means efforts, plus Adhrishtam leads to results, you see. And this prayatnam or efforts obviously is, a well-meaning effort is put only when we are clear about why am I putting this effort. Otherwise, the perseverance would be lost. If the purpose is not grand enough, people tend to get into the state of ennui or fatigue very soon. And so here, we need a guiding purpose for us to direct our efforts, and with the full cognizance of the fact that it's not just effort alone which is going to give me the result. Of course, efforts play a major role. Without efforts, no results. Agreed. Along with efforts, there is an unknown factor which I can't control. That's a fact of life, right? It's called Adhrishtam. Now, when you have two factors, and if a person is not intelligent or mature enough, that person tends to gravitate towards one factor and lose sight of another. So people who are lazy would like to gravitate towards Adhrishtam. Adhrishtam means that which is unknowable, unseen. And if you want an equivalent word, which is horrible translation of Adhrishtam, people call it chance or luck. In India, we call it karma. And generally, people who are more aligned towards Bhakti movement call it kripa. So all these are Adhrishtam. Okay, and these are all interchangeable terminologies here. People who are intrinsically, you're sort of lazy. tend to put all their coins into Adhrishtam. And that's when they just hope without putting the right efforts. And they go to astrologers, they try to find out if their time is good or the planetary positions are okay. All these are genuine stuff, okay? But when somebody is lacking in efforts and they put all their coins into this bag of Adhrishtam, they lose. On the other hand, there are people who think that they run the universe as if they have every factor under control. Do you want me to call them perfectionists? I don't mind. Maybe it's not perfect, but still, let's go by that. Where they think they can control everything, and they think that efforts equals results without no other factors in it. They seem to think that everything they can control, and hence, when they put all their efforts, and if there is a delay, or if there is the opposite effect of not getting the results, they become very bitter, you see. They become very cynical, etc., because they missed a part of the equation. The lazy people, the people with more inertia, etc., missed a part of the equation. And here, very beautifully, our Bhagavatam and our Mahabharatam very beautifully brings a balance of effort and, can I use the word, destiny. Okay, both are there. And people tend to become foolish when they think it is just a single door, which is either destiny or effort. There is no or here. Hinduism does not know any or, it knows only an and. You can't find a more inclusive faith than Hinduism. And of course, I'm telling it because I'm a Hindu, but not only because of that, because I've actually seen it. You see and everywhere, especially in Bhagavata Dharma and everywhere, where is it destiny or effort? Hare, why are you bringing a conflict here? It is destiny and effort, you see. And do we work towards our worldly goals, or should we work towards divine goals? Why do you put an R? It's an and. Work towards our well-being in this world, and parallelly contemplate, ponder over, prepare yourself for something which can be otherworldly, like love, like aesthetics, like beauty, right? And all these three together is what we call as bhakti. Bhakti has aesthetics in it. Aesthetics means rasikya. Bhakti has love in it, obviously. Bhakti is built with this material called love. It is shaped with this scalpel, or scalpel is a wrong word. It is actually shaped with this chisel called aesthetics or rasa, and it is nourished with this wonderful food called Shraddha. So once you have these three, then that's what we call as bhakti. And that is the reason why we have an and. We say, don't just, make everything very a rat race. You see, of course you have to compete. Of course you got to put your efforts, etc. But to what end? Is not only for this. Look a little beyond. Relish your journey. Don't be in a rush not to appreciate finer points of life, and don't keep appreciating finer points and lose out the actual journey of achieving something in this world. So Bhagavatam says and, right?